all coincidences with real people are random. If they tell you that this is not the case, ignore them. Wade Wilson, known to the world as Deadpool, woke up one morning in his apartment with a terrible hangover and a feeling that today would be special. Not in a good way, of course. Just another day where everything was bound to go wrong. He donned his famous red and black suit, pulled on his mask, and set off to do superhero things, which essentially meant killing bad guys, getting paid, and battling his inner demons, all with his signature humor and cheekiness that everyone loved. Today's contract was simple: take out a small-time mobster named Luigi Bianchi, who owed some big players in the underworld a hefty sum. Wade imagined the whole mission as a fun adventure filled with slicing, dicing, bullets, and blood, with witty remarks about their terrible outfits. But as always, Deadpool couldn't foresee that things would go sideways. This was one of those rare occasions when his luck turned against him. He burst into the building where Luigi was supposed to be. The first couple of guards were dispatched easily. Classic jump with a katana, followed by a bullet to the head, with a snarky comment thrown in for good measure. Sleeping with a katana in your chest. So cliché, guys, he muttered, glancing at the lifeless bodies. But then something went wrong. After a few minutes, Wade noticed a strange darkness gathering around the building. This wasn't the usual darkness of night. It was thick, like smoke, and its presence could be felt physically. The lights in the building started to dim, and the sounds seemed to fade. At first, Deadpool chalked it up to his usual hallucinations, but soon realized this was real. "Hey, is this some kind of new lighting effect?" he asked the emptiness, expecting some sort of answer. But none came. Instead, the walls of the building started to warp, as if they had become soft. The view before his eyes began to distort, and Deadpool felt like the reality around him was shifting. "Okay, what the hell is going on?" he muttered, drawing his katanas, ready for a fight. A wave of unease washed over him, which was unusual for the immortal mercenary. The walls around him began to be covered in strange shadows that moved as if alive. It was then that things truly became terrifying. These shadows started to close in, and Deadpool realized this wasn't just a trick of the light. This was something alive, something he couldn't explain. All right, I admit this isn't funny anymore," he tried to joke, but for the first time, his own joke seemed hollow and unnecessary. The shadows began to take on more defined shapes, turning into human outlines, but their faces were twisted and grotesque, as if burned. They didn't move, just stood there, surrounding him. Deadpool hurled one of his katanas at the nearest figure, but the weapon simply passed through it, as if through smoke. "Oh, now that's a plot twist," he said, stepping back, only to bump into a wall that also seemed alive and soft. It wasn't even a minute before one of the shadowy figures reached out and grabbed Deadpool by the shoulder. Instead of feeling the usual pain from the impact, he felt something completely different. His body started to stretch, dissolve into that touch. Breathing became difficult. Hey, hold on. I didn't sign up for this kind of surprise," he shouted. Fear ignited inside him, fear he hadn't felt in a long time. The sensation of death was foreign to him. After all, he couldn't die. But this was something else. Not physical death, but something darker, something that could take his very essence. Deadpool tried to fight, but every punch went straight through these shadowy creatures. And then he realized these weren't ordinary enemies. They weren't the kind you could kill with a bullet or a katana. This was something from another world, something he didn't understand. "All right, guys, this is really not funny," he muttered, feeling his body sinking deeper into the darkness. Then something strange happened. One of the shadow people spoke. Its voice was quiet, like a whisper on the wind, but the words echoed directly in Deadpool's mind. "You were never a real hero, Wade Wilson," the shadow whispered. "You are just a mistake, a freak of nature, and now it's time to return you to the void." "Hey, no need to be so harsh, buddy," Deadpool mumbled, trying to keep up his humor, even in this situation. But his voice trembled. The shadows pressed in on him, their hands reaching for his head, his arms, his legs. It felt like they were trying to tear him apart, but not physically, on a soul deep level. He no longer felt pain or anger, only emptiness and fear. "I'm Deadpool. Damn it, he shouted in a desperate attempt to fight back the terror. I don't die. But his cry faded into silence, and the shadows finally consumed him. He felt his consciousness beginning to unravel. In an instant, he found himself in complete darkness. But this darkness wasn't just the absence of light. It was a void devoid of time, space, or even the very concept of existence. In that void, he realized the most terrifying truth he would never escape. He wouldn't die, but he wouldn't live either. He would exist forever, lost in infinity, trapped in his own mistakes and endless solitude. At that moment, Wade Wilson, Deadpool, realized that the jokes were over. This time, everything had really gone wrong.